Hey guys, how's it going? It's Dilmer again and welcome back to my channel. So first of all, thank you for joining the channel. I really appreciate your time. And today I'm going to be showing you a tool that I've been using for the last couple of days. And the tool is called DOTween. So the first thing that I want you to do, because I already did this, but to save you time, actually go to Window and then Asset Store. Once you go to the Asset Store, just search for DOTween. Then once you search for DOTween, select the free version of DOTween. If you want to use the pro version, you're welcome to do so. For this session, I'm going to concentrate on the free version. So once you have downloaded, what it's going to do is actually going to create a folder under Assets, and it's going to actually prompt you with a setup, and that setup is going to look like this. It's going to have this window. All you have to do is just click on Setup DOTween, and that's basically going to add all the modules that you need. Once you've done that, you're pretty much ready to go with DOTween. So what I'm going to be doing in this lesson is I want to use DOTween to do animation. So DOTween is an animation engine that is going to allow us to animate things through code, and we don't have to set a timeline and set keyframes. This is all done through through code programmatically, and I'm going to show you how the syntax works. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use each one of these balls to animate them. And I want some of them to basically fall down and bounce as they hit the floor and go back up. And then some of them are going to go straight down, and some of them are going to have a different style of the animation. In fact, this one is going to fall down and it's actually going to change in color. So the other thing that I want to mention is make sure that you look at the DOTween documentation. That it has a lot of information in there. And honestly, I just went through the documentation and started looking at some of the examples. And they have a lot of information that you can use for your own benefits. So let me just minimize that. So then the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into Assets, and I'm going to right click on it, Create, and we're going to create a new folder. And this folder is going to be called Scripts. And then inside of the Scripts folder, I'm going to right click on it, Create, and we're going to create a new C# script. And this C# script is going to be basically the controller, so we can just call it the DOTween controller. And this is going to be the controller that controls each one of the animations on each one of the balls. So let's just double click on it. So every time you're doing an animation with DOTween, you have to, and it depends on what you want to do. Since we basically want to transition from one point to another, we're going to have to set a target location where we want to basically go to. So what I'm going to be doing I don't need the update method. And the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to create a serializable field. And this is a field that is going to be available through the inspector. So I like to make them private and serialize them just so that they get available in the inspector, but then no other classes have access to it. So then I'm going to do vector3, because that's going to be the target location where I want to animate to. And I'm going to set that to vector3 0. So that's going to be my default value. So the other thing that I want to know is I also want to be able to set the duration of the animation. So we can do, you can actually do private flow and then set the move duration. And then we can set it to a default of let's say 1 second. But I want to have a slider so that the user or the level designer have access to basically changing these with a slider. So I'm going to say I'm going to start at 1 second, and I'm going to allow up to 10 seconds of an animation. And then the other thing that I want to do is I also want to control the curve of the animation. So I'm also going to make this one serializable. And in fact, I actually want to do this one serializable as well, because I want to be able to control that in the inspector. And I'm going to do another private. And I'm actually going to do ease. And if you're in Windows, you can do Alt Enter. And then that's actually going to show the using statement. So DG, the tweening, it's the namespace that DOTween it's on. So if you want to use some of the components that are available to DOTween, you have to include the using statement dg.tweening. And then once you've done that, we're going to give it a variable name. So it's going to be move ease, and I'm going to give it a default of a linear. So I just want the animation to be linear. And I think we can start with that. We're going to be adding some other things. So the other thing that I'm going to be doing, I want to add multiple animation types. So I'm going to add a enum to control the type of the animation that we're going to be doing for each one of the examples. So I'm going to do DOTween type, and this is something that I'm making up. And I want to, the first animation is going to be movement one way, and we can start with that, and we can add to it as we go. And we're also going to add a variable for that. So I'm going to make a serializable field, private DOTween type, which is the type that I declared below. And then we can set the variable, which is going to be DOTween type. And we can set it to move one way by default. Perfect. Okay, so that's good. And now in the start method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an if statement because I want the first animation to be of type move one way. So I'm going to check if the animation is of that type, then the animation that I'm going to be applying is just going to be an animation that goes from one point to another. It doesn't actually go back to the original position. So the other thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm checking the target location. So if the target location is basically if it hasn't been set, then I'm going to do target location equal transform that position. And this is just, you know, a sanity check just to make sure that the user actually set the target location. If they didn't set it, it's actually going to go to 0. So if let's say that I have an object that is not a 0, it's actually going to change the target location to be a 0. So I really don't want that. I want the position to stay the original position of the object. And then now we get into the DOTween. So DOTween has a lot of extension methods. So if I look at the transform of this object and do move, this is actually, let me actually go back. And anything that has a down arrow with a cube is actually what's called an extension method. So this is part of DOTween. And then, so the first parameter of DOTween, if you look at the IntelliSense, it says that you have to specify an end value. So if you're going to move an object from one point to another, you got to specify the end value. So the end value is going to be the target location. And then how long the duration is going to be is basically going to be our move duration. Perfect. So if I do these, it's fine, but I don't have a curve that I have assigned. So let's actually test it before I show you what it's doing. So let's go back, and I'm going to select this ball right here. So I'm going to go to scene, make sure that I have this one selected, a component, and we're going to assign the DOTween controller that we just created. The other thing that I want to do is right now, if you look at the position, it's at 28.9, 17.7, and so on. So I want the animation to kind of land right about there. Actually, let's go a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record those values. So we can open up Notepad. So I need 28. It's going to be 28.9, and then negative 1.51, and then on the z-axis is going to be 7.525, and we can actually let's copy the entire value, go back to Notepad. Perfect. And then we can undo here so we can go back to the original position. So what I'm going to do is, so it's going to be 28.9 and negative 151. And then I'm going to stay with the Z, so we can just paste that. So the move duration, I have it set to 1, and that's fine. So let's go into the game and actually hit play. And if we hit play, we can see that the ball is falling down. So let's actually go back into, so if you look at it, it's actually a linear animation. There's really nothing to it. So what if we wanted to add a little bit of a bounce? So if you look at the movies that we just exposed through the inspector, we have all these different options. We have in bounce, so if we wanted to bounce as soon as it starts the animation, we can do that. Or we can do the out bounce, which is actually going to happen at the end So, but we haven't really set that. We haven't set the ease. So to set the ease curve, you can do set ease, and then the ease is going to be the move ease that we set in the inspector, which is going to be that variable. Now if we go back into Unity, and instead of doing linear, I'm going to change that. And we can do out bounds, which means that when the animation is completing, it's going to bounce. And let's hit play. And we can now see that it's actually falling as the, as the ball hits the ground, and it has a bounce effect. So you can play with some of these. So I could say, if I want it to be elastic, if I hit play and I do an elastic animation, you'll see that it's, let me actually do that one more time. Okay, perfect. And we can do, let's increase the move duration so we can see it better. There we go. Perfect. So I'm going to go back into out bounds, and let's hit play, and the move duration is going to be 3 seconds. Cool. Maybe let's set it to 2. I think 3 is too long. And let's hit play. Excellent. I'm going to go back down to 1. I think it looks more realistic. And we hit play. Perfect. Okay, I like that. So the next one that I want to do is I want to do an animation that is actually 2 ways. So I want this ball to fall down and actually go back up. So how do we do that? I'm going to add another enum. So let's go back into Visual Studio. And in the DOTween type, I'm going to do, instead of doing movement one way, I'm going to do movement 2 way. And then I'm going to add another if statement. And we're going to go, and I'm going to do else if. And we're going to check to make sure that it is the 2-way animation. So this check is fine because we still need a target position. So the next thing that I need is actually something else to go back. So this is going to go to a target, but it's not going back anywhere. So instead of doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new method, and it's going to be private because I just want this to be available by this class. And we're going to call a method move with both ways. Perfect. So the first thing that I need is I need the original location, because that's the location that I want to go back to. So I'm going to create a new vector, vector3, original location, and I'm going to save the transform position, which is the original location of the object. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this line, and we're going to go back down here. And we still need this line because we want to go to the target location. We still want to use the movies. And I'm going to actually add a yield return, new, and I want to wait, as it hits the floor, I want to wait for a little bit, and then I want it to go back up. So I'm going to do wait for seconds, and then I'm going to do move duration. Perfect. And I'm going to copy the line above. And this one is going to the target, so this one it's going to need to go back to the original position. So we can say original location, and everything else is the same. And right here, we actually need to call the method from a core routine. So I'm going to do a start core routine, move with both ways. Perfect, and we need to call it. So that's a method. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go back into Unity. And on the blue ball, I need to add the script as well. Perfect, and a component, DOTween. And instead of doing movement one way, we're going to select movement 2 ways. Perfect. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to record. So Z is going to stay the same. We can leave that the same. Then if we go down, I want it to be right about there. That's perfect. So 15.9 and -168. So we can go back up. We can copy the value from the orange, negative, because it's gonna be the same y value. Okay, and I want this one to be, I actually want it to be, I want to bounce on the way in and out bounce. Let's try that and see how it looks. And I still want it to be 1 second. Okay, perfect. And let's hit play. Now we should see 2 animations. And that looks a little strange. So let's actually do linear. We don't need to be very fancy with this one. I just wanted to show you that you can go to a target and then come back. Perfect. Okay, excellent. So now that we know that we can do multiple animations, let's do a movement and also a color change. So what I'm gonna do is I want to do one more. So in this one, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna add a new DOTween type, and this one is gonna be movement, one way, color change. So I want to move in one way, and I also want to change the color. So we're gonna change our if statement here and a color change. Perfect. So I still need to do that same check. That's not gonna change, but this time around I'm gonna do something a little bit different. So in this one we use an enumerator to do multiple animations, and we added a way. You can actually use something different. You can do what's called a sequence. So if we do DOTween and then sequence, we can append a sequence. So this is how you can add multiple sequences and multiple animations. So if I do transform that move, do move, and I'm going to select my target location. I also want to do my move duration, and I also want to select the ease, set ease, just like we did before, and I want to tell it how long the ease is going to be, so we need to use our move ease variable. So this is going to do the same thing that we did before, except that we are doing it with a sequence. So the next part in the sequence, what I want to do is I want to do another append, and I'm also going to do a transform, but this case I want to do get component, and in the get component I want to get the renderer, because I want to change the material color. So I'm going to do get renderer material, and then now you can see that in the material you also have extensions. So if you do color, that's going to change, that's going to allow you to change this material over time, but we haven't really set variables for the color. So before we keep going, let's go back up, and we need to set a couple more variables here. And we're going to do another serializable field, also private, color. This is going to be our target color variable. Perfect. And I'm going to copy, actually let's just do one more. And we also need to specify how long the color change duration is going to be. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do the same thing that I did above. And this one is going to be color change duration, and I'm going to set it by a default of 1 second. I'm also going to do a range, and we're going to start at 1 second just like we did above by default, and up to 10 seconds if I can type. Okay, perfect, and comma. Excellent. So now let's go back down and set those variables. So I'm going to uncomment my append. This is going to be the target color, and the duration of this, it's going to be color change duration. And I'm also going to set the ease just like we did before, set ease, and I'm going to set the move ease. We could create another ease if we wanted to for the color. For this demonstration, I think it's fine if we keep them the same. Let me actually do Let me move these down so you can see the whole thing. Perfect. So let me just recap here. So the first thing that we do, we check for the target location. If we didn't define it, meaning that it's still 0, we set it to the original location, and then we create a sequence in DOTween that is going to move the shape, the game object that we have this script attached to the target location. And the duration of that animation is going to be set by this variable, and then we still use the movies. After that, we're going to change the material color with, to that color, the target color, and then this is the color change duration, which is going to be the duration of the color change animation. Now let's go back up to Unity and go to scene, and let's actually pick the yellow color, and let's add the DOTween controller. We're going to be adding the same variables that we added here, so negative 151, so we can go back into that shape, and it's going to be the same Z. And I think everything else, and we want to go, let's see, right about, and X is going to be the same. Okay, so that's perfect. Let's go back through, set that, and then let's change the DOTween type to movement one way with color change. And now we can actually specify the target color. Let's leave it as linear so that we can see it. So, and then hit play. And we can see that it's changing to color black. Let's add a different color. Let's do something nicer. Let's do a blue, maybe a light blue. Perfect. And let's change the ease to say, we'll probably do, let's do out expo to see what we get. Let's hit play. And you can see that it's changing color. I actually like how the linear look like. Hit play. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so now let's do one more thing, and in this next one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do what I did with this ball, but I'm gonna do it with the sequence. So if we go back through, if you remember, we did the movement of two-way using a coroutine. So what if we wanted to do the same thing but with the sequence? So we're gonna do movement two-way with sequence, and we're just gonna copy that enum. And if you don't capture what I'm typing here, I'm gonna have this project available on GitHub. So as soon as I'm done with this lesson, I'm gonna be pushing that code. So don't worry about getting every single little thing that I'm typing, because it's gonna be available and you're gonna be able to review it. Okay, so perfect. So now instead of doing this, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna copy the sequence. And I'm gonna still do all this, except on this one right here, we're going to do the exact same thing, except we're gonna have to store the original position just like we did here. So I'm gonna go here and original position. So we're doing exactly what we did with the coroutine. So it's gonna move to the target location for that, for that move duration with that ease. And then we're gonna go back to the original location with the same move duration and the same movies. Okay, perfect. So now let's go back into Unity. And in this case, I'm gonna select this red ball. So let's do, I believe it's that one, yes. And we're going to, so I'm gonna go back into the one that I just did, which was the blue, and I'm just gonna copy the component so that we don't have to repeat everything. And I'm gonna paste that component. And we're gonna change the DOTween type to movement two-way with sequence. Excellent. And let's just hit play. And that's funny. We're getting the target location of this one because I copied the DOTween controller from this. So what I'm going to do is actually go into the red, and if you look at the X value is incorrect, so we're just going to fix that, and let's just hit play. But you can see that with mistakes you can actually get some really cool effects, and we're getting the same animation. Let's change the animation on the red one to be also a now bounce, so we can see a little bit of a difference. And I'm going to change it, let's make it faster, let's make it 0.5. Not on the color change duration, on the move duration. So 0.5, and everything else is good. And I don't think my changes stay there. Oh, I see what I did. The minimum value for the move duration was basically 1. I'm actually going to change that. So let's go into Visual Studio, and on the move duration I'm going to say the minimum is 0.5 because I want to see a faster animation. Let's go back into Unity, and now this should allow me to enter 0.5, and it did. And then hit play. Awesome. Let's just do it one more time so that we can see all of them. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the last one that I want to do is I want to do a scale change. So not only you can do a move, you can also do a move, a scale, and a color change at the same time. So I'm going to do one more. So let's go into Visual Studio, and I'm going to create a new mode. This mode is going to be called Movement One Way, Color Change, and Scale. And we're going to do just like what we did on this one. We're just going to copy this else if. And instead of doing this enum check, we're going to check the one that we just created, which is going to be with the scale. So in this one, I still want to move the sphere all the way down, but I want to scale it as well. So I'm going to copy this line, and I'm going to do a scale. Perfect. But we need a scale multiplier. If you look at the scale on the IntelliSense, it needs an M value. So I want to change this and add a scale target. So I'm going to copy this, and this is going to be a flow. And in this one, we're just going to say a scale multiplier. And I want the multiplier to have a default of 3. And just like I did on the ones above, I'm going to copy this guy, and I'm going to set it to a range. And on the scale multiplier, I want to go as low as 1.0, and we can go all the way up to 10. Well, actually, we can go crazy and say, okay, I want to go up to maybe 500 on the scale multiplier. And that looks great. Let's go back down, copy this variable, and in the do scale, if you look at the parameters, it takes a scale multiplier variable, which we just basically pasted, and also a move duration. So what I'm gonna do here, I want it to be a little slower. So I'm just gonna divide it by 2, so we can say half of the move duration, and we can have the same ease, and we can have the same, basically the same color change. Excellent. So I think, just to recap here, we're creating a sequence. We're still going to go down to the target location. The difference now is that we're going to be scaling as we're moving down, and it's going to be half of the move duration. That's how long the animation is going to be for the scale. We're still going to do the same ease, and then we're also going to be changing the color. So let's see what kind of effect we get with this. Now if I go, so what I'm going to do is, just like I did with the other one, I'm going to copy the component on the orange large, and I'm going to paste it on the red large, and I'm going to just change the position X so that we don't have issues with that. Then the other thing that I'm going to do is change the DOTween type, which is going to use the scale one that we just created. The scale multiplier of 3, so that's going to be 3 times as big. We can do these. Let's actually do it. Let's do 6. And color change duration, that's fine. And let's change the color. Maybe we want this to be maybe a strong green. That's perfect. Or a light green. And move duration is 1 second. Linear. I think that's fine. Let's see what kind of effect we get. Hit play. And we're moving down and scaling. The scaling didn't really give us a lot of changes. And also the Y, let's actually go, I don't want it to go all the way through. I want it to stop right about there. So negative 1.19. Okay, so negative 1.19 is going to be your Y. The move duration, 1 is fine. Scale multiplier, let's go, let's do 10. And let's see what we get. I hit play. We're moving down and we're scaling up and we're changing colors. Now if I wanted that color to change, let's say that I wanted that color to be, you know, maybe an orange. And I want the move duration to be, let's say 0.6. I want it to be a little faster. This one I'm gonna go to negative 1. And let's hit play. See what we get. It's moving down and changing color and going to orange. What if we wanted transparency on that object? So we can also change the alpha. And I like how the blue color looks. So we can go like that. And I'm gonna go, what if I change the scale multiplier to say 50? Let's go pretty high. Then go to the game, hit play. And let's see the effect that we get. And we get some really cool effects. Perfect. And I think we want to go, let's change the alpha. Oh, I see what's happening. So this material that we have on the red is actually not, it's an opaque material. So let's change this to be transparent. And so that the alpha actually applies. And let's hit play. And that's cool. Now we can see the other balls going through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, say, 200. And I want the alpha to be even lower. I want to see more of what's inside of that ball. Hit play. And cool, we have a giant, pretty much have a giant sphere. Which is great. And I'm going to unpause it. And we can go back down to, say something like 14 and hit play. Okay, I like how that looks. So that's really all I wanted to show you guys. If you guys have any questions, let me know through the comments. I'm also gonna be pushing this code to GitHub. So if you look at the code and have any questions, you know, feel free to let me know through the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Thank you guys.